Chris Cuomo is an extremist, okay? He's a pro-Israel, pro-genocide extremist.
I don't know what they're going to do with Anna Kasparian. Anna Kasparian is not shutting up when it comes to Chris Cuomo, when it comes to Ben Shapiro's favorite place, when it comes to all of this. Anna Kasparian is like, that's it, I'm done. I've held my mouth closed for too long. Anna Kasparian is going to absolutely eviscerate Chris Cuomo, especially for especially for his comments about AOC. I'm just trying to get to that point. All right, bet. I just want to make sure that we have that there. So let's go ahead. Without further ado, Anna Kasparian eviscerating Chris Cuomo. And guys, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell. Let's go ahead and get into it.
I think he's a problem in the country.
There is a real enemy that matters so much more than every other contrivance. It hates both sides. It is coming for all of us. I realized it was time for a wake-up call when AOC, the member of Congress from New York, was hapless enough to call for impeaching Trump again, this time for doing something that led to a ceasefire.
Well, I do not echo what Chris Cuomo likes to echo there, which is this idea that AOC is an extremist, adding to extremism in America. Now, that extremism, according to Cuomo, has manifested in AOC's popularity within the Democratic Party. He also mentions, luckily, right-wing nationalism. He thinks that the pro-Palestinian movement is extremist. He thinks the tragic killing of 2 Israeli embassy staff members is the result of extremism in the country. He also mentioned the assassination of Brian Thompson. So look, there is extremism in the country that leads to people carrying out violent acts. And I am not in any way justifying those violent acts or co-signing on to that extremism. But I do want to break down more of what Cuomo had to say here, because he began this lengthy segment by criticizing AOC for pushing impeachment against Trump, which he believes was just intended to get attention. And then after he criticized AOC's record as a lawmaker, he then stated that Americans need to worry about extremism represented by white nationalists and, of course, pro-Palestinian student protesters. Here's the clip.
Our worry is not just about brown guys with beards screaming about Allah. Extremism has taken root among our own people, many of whom are brown with beards, by the way. It's not about how you look. It's about how you think, okay? Especially among our young people. We see them on both fringes. The number one terror threat domestically for years has been, now you're probably thinking Muslims, wrong. Right-wing white nationalism. Now it has an equal opposite on the left, with this perverse affinity for fundamentalists like Hamas. Globalize the intifada. We hear alleged Democrats questioning Israel's right to exist, saying the regime in Iran is a victim.
Before Anna Kasparian goes off, I just want to make this a point to say that, Chris Cuomo was an absolute weak, spineless individual. White nationalism is hardly a threat to America. I wish white nationalism could actually be a threat to, what they would call a threat. We had some strong white people to stand up to the corruption of the Israel lobby and things like that. Oh my gosh, I would be very, 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 I'd be happy to see it. I would be rejoicing to see it. Unfortunately, we don't. Because I don't see this threat. I really just don't see this threat. This guy doesn't know what to do with himself. Then, of course, he talks about, the Palestine protests. And, of course, it goes right into the same thing of, already labeling it a certain Terry term that I'm not going to repeat. But it's disgusting. It's so lame. But I'm going to tell you this. Young people aren't falling for this. And that's the problem. He's big mad because his brother lost. But anyway, we'll take it and give it right back to Anna.
Okay, I'm getting real tired of the intentional lie that people who want Palestinians to live, to have the right to self-determination, to have their own state where they're governed without Israel controlling their water, their food, their everything, without settlers invading their homes, forcing them out of their homes. people who protest on behalf of Palestinians are not by default protesting in favor of terrorist groups, including Hamas. So what Chris Cuomo does, and it's intentional. I don't think he's doing it by accident. I don't think he's dumb. I think he's doing it intentionally. He is intentionally defaming the vast majority of protesters who look at what's happening on the ground in Gaza and they're disgusted by it. Rightly so, because it is a genocide. Okay, you hear politicians in Israel's parliament flat out saying, we're going to do whatever we want to the Palestinians and no one's even going to care. And you know what? Sadly, in this country, it feels like those in positions of power don't really care. And so to hear Chris Cuomo fearmonger about the people who have enough of a heart to care about victims of Israel's genocide, it just absolutely disgusts me. Like I don't know why he's so obsessed with providing cover for Israel's bad acts, for their genocide, for their war crimes, but he does it all the time. And honestly, quite frankly, I'm sick of it. I shouldn't have to do endless throat clearing about how I do not agree with Hamas. I don't support Hamas. I thought Hamas's atrocities on October 7th were disgusting.
Okay, I'm going to stop her right there. We're going to get to the AOC segment, because what's going to happen is that Anna, she can say those things on her show and she'll be okay. Me, it'll trigger something for me. So we're going to go into the AOC portion of it. And I'm not even going to touch what she said for many reasons. Guys, if you want to know how I feel about a lot of things, follow me on Twitter, ThatGirlCasey1, and you'll find out more about my thoughts on a lot of this stuff. But anyway, let's get back to the topic at hand of why Chris Cuomo has his panties in a bunch over AOC. You know, Anna Kasparian is right about a lot of stuff she said about Chris Cuomo. And Chris Cuomo's panties are in a bunch because of AOC.
Okay, well, then we're never going to convince you anyway, because you don't care about facts. Okay, so those are the relatively okay, fine parts, right? But when you get into what the radical left is, in his mind, that's where he conflates things massively, right? So first of all, on AOC, well, you got to separate out the policies that are economic in nature and non-economic in nature. If you say, hey, some of AOC's positions in the past, like abolish ICE, doesn't poll that well, which is a point that Cuomo made, that's true, right? But you're then throwing in all of our economic policies in the same bucket, but the economic policies are actually super popular.
Yeah,
and that
it's
is
by design.
Exactly, Anna. And that is why I separate out the radical left culture war issues from the economic policies, because the economic policies are enormously popular. And what Chris Cuomo in this case, and almost all of the establishment media wants to do is they want to confuse you into thinking they're all unpopular. So they go, oh, okay, transports, and that's why nobody wants Medicare for all. That's not true. Medicare for all polls at over 70%.
Now, they're doing this thing where they're eating around the edges of the situation. But once again, the only reason why Chris Cuomo is upset with AOC is because AOC has been with Mamdani. I can't. So, like, a lot of people are coming at AOC right now. 33-year-old Zohar Mamdani is I'm not going to use this term, running for mayor of New York City. He openly calls for support of Palestine, which, I mean, I don't understand. Like, this person writes that as if it's a bad thing. Doesn't think Israel, anyway. And he's endorsed by anti-S AOC. So this is why people are so worked up right now about AOC. And now, for some reason, I have to have AOC's back because people are tripping. Like, they're saying, like, oh, it's because of her, you know, that's why he's where he's at and everything else. And it's like, guys, who cares? Look, never forget, AOC was campaigning for Sharia law in New York City. It's just ridiculous. MAGA is going to lose their mind. They're going to lose their messaging if they don't stop this stuff. They really need to stop. Meanwhile, that's what's got Chris Cuomo's, panties bunched up. And I mean, there's just no other word for it. So let's just listen to what he said again about AOC. Hold on.
He's a problem in the country.
There is a real enemy that matters so much more than every other contrivance. It hates both sides. It is coming for all of us. I realized it was time for a wake-up call when AOC, the member of Congress from New York, was hapless enough to call for impeaching Trump again, this time for doing something that led to a ceasefire.
There was no ceasefire, by the way. So you see, these people, they'll lie to you and everything else. But, you know, all of this, you will see, like, all of this big hoopla is because of the fact that she endorsed Zohran Mamdani. I don't live in New York, and I'm not a social, well, I believe in government assistance in a way because, I mean, we give our money everywhere else, so how come it can't stay here for the people? I mean, isn't that why we pay taxes? But anyway, that's a different story. All of this getting worked up over AOC is because she endorsed that man, and now everybody's going after her. Everybody's going after him. It is absolute calamity, but we're here to talk about it. I'll see you guys at the next one. Bye.